Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tattva Tuesday. This is Lindsay Warwick with Lindsay Warwick Yoga and Healing, also known as The Conduit on Spotify and on YouTube. Tattva Tuesday is the spiritual interview series that I'm conducting. Tattva is a Sanskrit word that means truth. And so I'm inviting people on here to tell me about their spiritual offerings and also how they came onto the spiritual journey. So excited. My second guest is Sanni Pääkkönen, the founder of Eternal Present, which is Somatic Frequency Work. So thank you so much, Sanni, for being with me for Tattva Tuesday. Thank you.
Thank you for having me here. It's my honor to be sharing about this work and go deeper with you into the mysteries and the magic of unfolding of what it means to be a human on Earth. It's such a beautiful experiment that we are having here together.
It really is a beautiful experiment. I had the pleasure of meeting Sanni this past, we're in 2022. In 2021, I did a 300-hour shamanic yoga teacher training with the Kula Collective. And Sanni is a facilitator for them. And that is how our paths crossed. And I feel like as soon as I met you, there were so many different ways that I related to you. So many similarities to our energy, and I got drawn to your frequency work. And I've had a couple sessions with her, as well as participated in her meditations. And they have literally shifted me from inside out. And that being said, I just would love for you to tell us about what is frequency work. Let's start there.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yes, I really want to emphasize that I have not invented frequency work in a way, and how I relate to it. It's not even only a spiritual practice. Like, you can call it in many different names, but for me, how it looks like, it is the way of connecting the science and spirit in a way, because it's all speaking about the same thing. And so what is frequency? It is, if you think about energy, like everything is energy, and this is already being proven in Western science as well, is if we take a body and the chromosomes and atoms and cells and all the little details of the body into smaller and smaller pieces, only thing that we find is energy. And also say thoughts or emotions, feelings that we have, for example, the feeling of joy would have a totally different energy to it than feeling of anger. And very sensitive people oftentimes even feel this difference without really knowing whether somebody is angry or joyful. They just simply feel it in their body. So what is even creating energy? There's a frequency behind it, right? And that's where we go. So we can also call this like a sub-quantum physics that we're doing here. And frequency is present everywhere. So this frequency work is not necessarily just a specific school of thought or some kind of training that you can get certified in. It's a direct experience. And how I see it is that it is present in every single healing modality that we do. It's present in every single breath we take. It's present in every single thought and the space in between the thoughts. It's everywhere all the time. And we all have a different, unique connection to that, and it works differently through everyone. So that's what I call the frequency work, and how my abilities has come online through multiple different layers and initiations. I have a background of yoga and deep embodiment practices, dance practices, as well as Reiki energy healing, core shamanic practices. I studied so many different things, regression therapy, etc. And I traveled in multiple different cultures and lived with many different, also got exposed to some indigenous cultures and learned deeply from people who's lived in harmony with the earth for a long time. And from there, it wasn't until I met my mentor, Masachari, who's been kind of pioneer on bringing in this like the frequency language into being. And he really helped me to hone in these abilities. And I see the frequency. I see how the patterns are showing up in people's life. For example, if somebody has a pattern of like attracting toxic relationships to them, I could see where it started from, in a way, in time and space, whether
Yes,
it's in the, yeah, whether it's in a DNA, the family lineage, some other space-time, your personal history, so many different layers. And again, we can come into this space where we can become empowered to rewrite those patterns. So you don't have to keep attracting these toxic relationships. You can actually start emanating this space that I call the 0 point on the inside, and that will start naturally attracting these healthy relationships to you. So this is what I help to do, and I don't do it for people. What I do in the frequency work, I facilitate and hold space and guide, and it's your higher self who's actually doing the work.
Yes, and I love that. I love that so much about you. I felt, as soon as I met you through the yoga teacher training, I felt such a deep sense of humility and a deep sense of integrity. And so that is why I contacted you for a session. And my life has already shifted since doing the frequency work. I mean, I'm doing this, which I never thought in a million years I would be putting myself out there in this capacity. But ever since doing the frequency work, I've made shifts in my life, and things have just kind of opened and expanded, and it's just been really, really beautiful. So thank you for telling us all about it. Would love to know, there's so much I want to know about you, and trying to keep this under an hour is going to be very challenging. So I guess we can start. How did you get onto the healing path? I know that I think you said it started with yoga. Is that right?
Yeah, well, actually, before yoga, there was dance for me. Like dance was the very first one. Yeah, when I was around like 10 or 11, I wanted to learn what it feels like to be in the body and allow my body to move in multiple different forms and shapes and break all the paradigms of what I knew about what human body is capable of. And yeah, I was very psychic when I was a child. I'm born and raised in Finland, so that's where I grew up. But I traveled a lot, many years in my adult years, and I remember dropping into this black space when I was probably around 7 or 8 years old or younger, and I would, every night when I was going to sleep, I was dropping through this black space into unknown, and that's where like astral traveling was really introduced to me, where I went into different times and spaces, and I was seeing things that other people didn't see. I was hearing things that other people didn't hear. So veils were really thin for me when I was a child. I didn't have somebody kind of guiding me on that when I was a child, so I forgot / were super afraid of the spaces that were opened up for a good reason.
I can definitely relate to that.
So many children are so sensitive, and then it kind of shuts down when it's a protection mechanism. Yeah, so that happened to me as well, in a way that it was not until the late like 18, 19 and early 20s when I really started to open up, like my abilities came strongly back online through different meditation practices and studying metaphysics. And then yoga came in from dance and yoga philosophy and the self-inquiry, Advaita Vedanta, the non-dualistic these teachings. And I was traveling, following the footsteps of many teachers before, but I never really followed just one teaching. And mountains started to come into my dreams, like literally asking me to go mountain ranges. I'm talking about like the Atlas Mountains in Africa, or the Alps in Europe, and then certain mountains in India, and the Andes in Peru and South Africa, America, and etc., etc. So there were like multiple mountain ranges that started to come into my field, and I went and I followed it. And every time I went, there was some big initiation for me in that power place. So there was another teaching or training waiting there for me, being uncovered. And that's how I like peeled layer by layer by layer coming into the space. And it just naturally started to happen that the way that this frequency is moving through me, how life force is moving through me, I ended up helping people. Like people just came to me with all kinds of things because they felt seen. And that's where I just had to accept my, like, okay, there is this, some kind of this role inside of me, this like tendency to hold space for people this way. Yeah, so I guess that's the background.
That's so beautiful. I can definitely relate. As a child, I remember having visions and that psychic ability and being so afraid of it, and also not having coaching or mentor. And then later in life, of course, I found out that some of the women in my family are gifted as well. And I know you have gone into my energy field and seen things from my ancestral lineage. So it's very interesting. And then instead of like running towards it like you did in your young adulthood, right? 18, 19, you started going towards it. I tried to bury mine with substances, like partying. I tried to just bury it, but I still would have people that were drawn to me. And then I finally found the yogic path when I was 21, I think. I found the yogic path because I signed up for a yoga class to finish my degree requirements. And I hated yoga at first. And then I just started to love it because you start getting access to your higher self. And so it's very interesting how we all find the path, or the path finds us, right? Like our destiny finds us. And I've experienced your ability to hold space for people, and it's really beautiful. So tell us about like what a frequency session is like. I know earlier you mentioned that you can see the energy, and did that always come, did the gift of sight always come to you easily, or was that something that you developed with your teacher? Like, how did that come into play?
Yeah, I've always had the sight since I was a child, very, very like strong imagination and visuals and everything coming through. It wasn't, when people speak about this third eye awakening, and I had my experience of that when I was in Guatemala, and I was studying in this metaphysical center there, and we had how many days? I think it was like 5-6 days in silence, and we went really deep within, and also like fasting and cleansing during that time. And we had this like deep inquiry, and during that time, it literally like felt like my third eye opened up to totally, like I just saw through the veils and the filters, and everything looked like for me like this 3D. Everything was alive, every single rock, and there were a lot of beings out that I was like able to see and connect with, and I was wide awake, and it felt for me not necessarily a third eye in the forehead, but like this full body third eye awakening, as if all my cells would have eyes on them. And that's how it felt, like this, almost like feeling everything, feeling the frequency around and down below and behind and every single house around. And that really, like once I grounded that, it was many years after then that I was still grounding that. And I had multiple initiations like that, that were leading into this like stronger vision. And it's not always that beautiful, you know, because when the vision opens, we also see things that we don't want to be seeing. And the suffering of the earth, it wasn't only through eyes for me, it was also through hearing. Like I could hear the suffering of people through times and spaces where I had been involved, or sometimes I hadn't been involved, I was just witnessing it. So there was a lot of like a heaviness and the pain of the earth that came to me to be seen. And it was such a teaching for me to hold my center and know who I am when I'm witnessing this. I call them distortions, like when something is far away from its original potency or its original design, in a way, its true nature. And that's where say humans, a lot of humans they carry the same suffering or the same illness of the family lineage generations after generations after generations, because we have this mind that tends to get lost in space and time, and then go so far away that we forget what our true nature is as a sovereign creator being. And say, if you look at nature, anything in nature is really quick and efficient, because
Right.
it's all the time in that deep present, what I call the 0 point, the connection of like linear time and space. And if there's an illness in, say, a plant kingdom or some animals, it only takes 1 generation for it to be gone, or maximum like 2, 3. And it's really quickly, it's healed, because it's like finding solutions from that limitless space from the inside, because it's always in the present moment, in this deep 0 point. And humans, we have this mind that travels out of it. So we forget, like, oh, I have the ability in my body to literally regenerate every cell in my body all the time. I have the power to release this stuff. I don't have to age the same way that my parents did, or carry the emotional stuff, or anything else, like collective distortions in a way, because there's a lot of this big, huge forces in play that can be really like manipulative in a way, like manipulating the way that we're leading our life. And the more we come into that power and the insight to choose, well, then you have the choice. I have a choice if I want to suffer or not, right? And that's like totally, like, mind doesn't even understand that. It's like pain doesn't have to be suffering. It's just a story that is wrapped around the pain that is creating that suffering. So this is what we are undoing as we're going deeper into this space. And that's what I see and sense, but I also help other people to awaken into their inner abilities, because we all have that ability to sense it. Some people don't see, some people just feel in their bodies. Others hear, others just might have a different like sensory experience. They just like receive different kinds of insights. So there's many different ways to perceive this inner power and be in relationship with the world from that space.
How would you define the 0 point?
Yes, that's a wonderful question. So how often have we heard this, like, just be in the present moment and carpe diem, and like
be here now all the time, drop in. Yes, absolutely.
We hear that all the time, yet few are the ones who really realize what it is. And I had a teacher, she was this shaman in Peru many years back. She was reading coca leaves for me, which she was just like picking them up from her pouch and throwing them in front of me. And the coca leaves are really sensitive for the electromagnetic field. So it doesn't reveal anything that I wouldn't already know, but it just brings up something that somebody who can read it that way in their lineage, they can bring up things that need attention. And this was way before even frequency work came online for me. So it was interesting. She said to me that only thing that you need to do in this lifetime is to be present. And you can forget everything else, because I had all these questions coming. Where do I move next? Which country do I go? What do I do for my work? All these different questions and direction, and looking for that higher guidance somewhere. And she just kept telling me, just forget all the other things and just be present. And here I am now, many years later, discovering what she really meant, right? The time is our greatest teacher. And the 0 point, what it means is, if you would put, so on the video, I'll just show here. So there's say space. This is a concept of space, how we understand space with our mind. And this would be the linear time. And you can think of it as this cross point in between the linear time and the space. So that 0 point is timeless presence. And that's exactly where nature lives, right? So nature doesn't get confused of who it is, right? The oak tree,
where it's going, or where it's been.
It doesn't think about what it's gonna make for dinner. Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. So it lives in time. So you can read the history of time in nature, but it doesn't get tangled in the past or worried about future. And that's because it's living in that eternal presence all the time. And in that 0 point, we humans have that power as well. It's within our bodies. It's just when we are disconnected from that power, we start finding solutions from the outside and try to fill in. And it's taking that action from that very limited space. So the 0 point would be if the mind can only see like 1 or 2% of what is possible, right? And then it takes action from that space, which many people take action from insecurity or validation or lack or all kinds of things, trauma. Many of us has been hurt on the way really deeply. So it's nobody's fault. It just is that we have gone so far from the 0 point that it seems like it's not in our reach, right? And the 0 point, that's where our higher self really lives, that timeless essence that you were before you even were conceived in your body, before your body started to form. Well, you were you were an individual consciousness, right? And that is the
call that like the soul.
Like you can call it soul.
The soul. That's like what I think of, like before we jump into I was having this conversation the other night, like literally, if you think about birth, I don't know, tell me how you feel about this, but like your soul, right? Your limitless potential goes through, if you think about like, you know, this might sound TMI, but the vaginal canal, we're talking about the actual human, you're going through the earth portal, the human portal, like, and you're coming into a meat sack.
Yes.
I don't know if that made any sense, but the other night I was talking about it with my friend and it made total sense. Like you come from this limitless potential and then you are birthed out through human consciousness and put into a human body. So
yeah.
Yes. Does that make sense to you?
It does. Yeah. Well, I see it. I can share a little bit more how I see it.
Yes,
really
please.
It's because like so many people think, oh, well, there's the soul or spirit. I'm just going to call it spirit. The soul sometimes has like a lot of like religious connotations around it.
Oh yes.
But okay. Anybody can call it whatever they want to, right?
Right.
So, so the spirit, like so many people think that there's there are two different things. So there's the spirit and then there's a body. But the body is actually a reflection or it's projection of that spirit. And that's how I said, for example, when I work with clients, I see their bodies as a hologram. It's a combination of billions of different frequencies. So it's actually a mirror. It's a reflection or projection of your spirit, right? And oftentimes when we have this, these spiritual practices or even say certain plant medicines, that people tend to leave their bodies into the higher realities and realms. And what we're doing in the frequency work is to help to be in the body, which I call it the somatic for that reason, because it's very much body based. And realizing that that power is in your body. You are the spirit that you want to reach somewhere higher up. You are the God or the goddess, whatever.
Inside.
Yes, exactly. And if you think about, there's like I'm just going to call it the pure source. It could be God or goddess or great spirit, many different names. And many different names. That's like unity consciousness. And then from there, we all have an individual consciousness that comes into being, right? And that is your blueprint. That is your spirit that comes into being. And it's the sense of I, or the sense of self in a way. So you're still part of the big, but you're also unique and you have a free will, right? Yes. And many people forget that they have the free will to do anything in this world, to experience anything in this world, right?
Yes.
And that free will, that is the like formless form, or the that limitless like consciousness before that starts to condense into more and more and more density, which eventually creates organs, it creates the body in the womb, it creates all the different things. But the body is also frequency, it's just more dense frequency that comes into being. And that is the key, is to how can we live that pure limitless potential in the body, so without forgetting that we are that limitless being. And then the body is no longer a limitation, but it actually is an opportunity for doing this 100% the work that you came here to do, really. That the Dharma, I call it the Dharma, which is really reflection. When you come into your 0 point on the inside, it is a reflection of that. You just want to live in harmony with the nature around you, the world around you, with the people around you. You want to be the best possible version of yourself. And anything that you do from that space would be abundant. Like that's where true abundance and prosperity lives, which is nothing to do with money, is just a tiny little part of it.
Right.
But the true abundance is really coming into your 0 point on the inside, in that eternal presence, and then operating from that space, expanding from that space, never moving out of it again, but expanding from that space, and then everything around you will start reflecting it back to you. So you will start attracting abundance, resources, people that can help you, beloveds who are like reflections, frequency match for you. Anything that you need will be there, right?
Yes.
Also the challenges that you need to help help you to grow. So, but this time the challenges are not there. You're not the victim of the challenges, but you'll be able to see, like, whatever comes on your way, okay, this is an opportunity for growth, and I'm going to use it to strengthen me. Right?
Absolutely.
So
yes. I definitely have learned that along my spiritual path. You know, I used to play the victim mentality, and now I look at hard times like, okay, what is this teaching me? How can I get closer to my God or my source? And how can I get stronger? And I think of life sometimes as like a video game, like, okay, I'm on this level. How can I ascend to the next level? And what is this lesson teaching me? And let's say I fail that lesson, I fail that level, I'm going to attract the same type of experience until I can master that lesson. At least that's how I see it. As you were talking, I was thinking of so much, but why do you think, and this is going to kind of go back to that like earth human portal. I keep doing this, but I've never given birth, like not yet in this lifetime. But why do we have such expansive consciousness, and then we go through that portal, and literally it's like we forget that we are that limitless presence? Why do you think that happens? And why do you think that happens?
So on a frequency point of view, it's actually quite simple and clear. And if you think about because again, the frequency point of view, it always goes beyond good and bad and all that stuff. It just simply sees frequency.
Is, right?
It just is, And pure human potential is something you can think about it as like this umbrella that all of us is coming from that space. So when, say, again, we'll come back to that same image of there's the pure source, whatever you want to call it, there's an individual consciousness, and then to be able to come into form, you will have to have a filter. I'm just going to call it a filter of humanity, like being a human. If you would have a filter of being a cat, you would actually take a form of a cat, right? So now you have a filter of human, which is starting, it's a frequency design, right? And then you have a filter of being, say, a male or female body, and a filter of this and that. So like, this is how we start building.
Layers, and it layers it.
Layers and layers, exactly. That's the best way. It's not exactly just a layer how it looks like, but that's how it makes sense for the mind to think about it as a layer. And every layer helps you to become more dense. So how I see humans, that humans are a species out in the universe that are kind of like scientists, and we are going deeper than any other, like, say, if you think about aliens or ETs or any other creatures that are like higher frequency creatures. They don't exist in this physical density. They exist in a higher reality where they have a higher or like easier access to their pure potential. Now humans are like, well, let's just see how far can we get into how heavy we can get in density, how dense we can get, and still exist in that pure potential. And as that happens, we're going through this, you can think of it as a veil of forgetting, because it's almost like,
right,
we need to almost like put the volume down in order to create that much density. What people call ascension is actually, I like to call it, say, incension. Like it's actually not going higher up, but it's bringing the higher frequency down into the body. And now what is happening on a collective level is that more and more people are awakening into this power within themselves and embody it, actualize it in everyday life, not just the meditation, not just the spiritual practice, but in every single thing that they do, to doing dishes, to talking to your beloved or children, all the different things. It's coming embodied and actualized in our daily lives. And that is helping to open up the more and more and more and more of that original potential in a way. And this is where the awakening happens when somebody is tapping into that higher consciousness in their body. Mm-hmm. We oftentimes see them as sages or gurus, or we see this like light glowing around them. And that is literally everybody's birthright. And this is what we are doing as a human collective, is to help to remember that limitless potential in our bodies.
I think it's so amazing. How would you suggest to people, like what would be some first steps for people to take to kind of get closer to their 0 point?
Yeah, that's a really wonderful question. So
great.
That's exactly what we do in the frequency work.
Yeah.
So trying the frequency work would be the one, but it's definitely not the only, because again, like frequency work, this is just one type of frequency work. There's everything is frequency work in a way, if you look at it from that perspective. But one of the first one would be to become super aware of your body, like really getting, say, Vipassana practice, for example. Many people know Vipassana. Mm-hmm. It really is helpful because it helps you to kind of scan through your body and all the details of your body until you fully know your coordinates in a way of where you exist in space and time. Mm-hmm. And then there's also this beautiful practice of spatial referencing.
I love that practice.
Yeah, where it's super simple, but it's actually very advanced in a way. So you just become aware of the ground below you and your points of contact with the ground and the ceiling above you, and feel the space in between the ceiling and the crown of your head. And then you do the same to both sides, as well as in front of you and behind you. You find something physical like a wall or a piece of furniture. It doesn't matter what it is, but you simply look around and you feel your distance from those objects. Because it's again, like if your spirit doesn't know exactly where you are, it's like a GPS. If it doesn't know exactly where you are in space and time, you're going to end up scattered, right? You're all over the place. And that's where, say, overwhelm and stress and confusion and indecisiveness and feeling other people's emotions and all of this stuff comes when you're like spread in time and space and you don't exactly know who you are and where you are. So that can help to like really distill into this like present moment right here. And then you can go anywhere without losing your center. You could go into a full room of demons and you would be totally fine because you own your space, right? Nothing can latch onto you. You're not taking other people's stuff on you because you just simply are resonating in that powerful space. And some people, well, that's too good to be true. But you know what? I witness this all the time working with people. It's totally possible for everyone. And we are all in different kind of different part of this process and unfolding that is perfect for you exactly as it is.
Yeah, the first time that we did the spatial referencing, I literally saw so much. And again, I don't know why this keeps coming up tonight, but like a video game, like I felt like it totally like zeroed me into my character. I found myself. And I felt definitely more grounded in my body. Because, yesterday I participated in this deeply healing heart experience where we did cacao ceremony, we did transformational breath work, we did sound healing and massage. And before the event, I felt very out of my body. And the way that you were kind of explaining, like before you do the spatial referencing, I guess you would kind of describe that as being ungrounded or out of the body, right? Like that's what that means.
Yes.
So doing the spatial referencing actually helps you to ground yourself in. And it's interesting because I used to think that, I want to get like higher into my chakras and I want to ascend, right? Yes, ascend to me always felt like this, but the longer that I stay on this path, the more I realize that like the deep wisdom is in my body. It's in my body. And I need to be in my body to continue to ascend.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's like, it's so interesting. Like it's amazing.
Yeah. Well, even like on a frequency level, it's like one of the totally available superpowers that we have. I just call them superpowers, but they're really just the most natural gifts that we have. once we in our physical bodies, right? And there's a lot of teachers who, if they get, say, caught in the hand, they would actually heal it really quickly. And this is like, for what I'm seeing, like as a human evolution or involution is happening, I see more and more people coming into this space where we literally can regenerate our body. And this will be huge for how we relate to illness, because any illness, physical illness in the body or emotional or mental, is because we're out of time. And that's just how simple it is on a frequency level. And when we come fully in time and fully in that 0 point and realize the power that lives in there, we'll be able to pour from that unlimited source of energy and literally regenerate ourselves. So that's where our eternal essence lives, in that space. And it's just a matter of time when humans are starting to take the shape of it. And it's already happening. Our DNA strains are starting to come online, like more. There's only 2 of them that are online in a way for most people, but they now discover that there are healthy individuals who has 4 DNA strains active, and there's way more of that coming. So we'll be able to like bring a lot more of what we call the supernatural powers into very grounded everyday life. And as well as technologies that hasn't even been on Earth yet are coming through, that are a lot more sustainable and regenerative also for the Earth.
Or have they been on Earth and they're just coming back? I have a question. So when you say disease is just something being out of time, can you kind of break that down a little bit? Like, by what do you mean by out of time?
Yeah. So see how far it goes. So if you think about somebody in your family lineage, I'm just going to say the mother's side in this case. This example, and the mother's side is somebody down the line, say 6, 7 generations. They were making it up. They were in the situation where they made, for example, a huge sacrifice for example, under pressure. Okay, like I'm sacrificing my son's life so that I can maintain all the other family members' life, because there's like this human history has been so twisted. And that's again like the so-called dark forces are simply out of time forces, where it just becomes so far from its original intent that it becomes literally kind of its own entity. And then say like there's this manipulative force that has pressured somebody in your family lineage to make this huge sacrifice, and then they go ahead and they carry the guilt of that in their whole life into the grave. And then the next woman is being born in that family lineage, and they carry the same guilt in their DNA without realizing actually even what happened, and so on and so on and so on. And then that just keeps building up, and say now the guilt is this huge kind of like twisted energy that is literally like the sacrifice energy, which is starting to eat the flesh from the inside, literally. Like that's what happens this happens in different forms, say the bones that are becoming weaker, or digestive system that doesn't quite work well, or eye vision that is starting to get weaker, and all different forms. And then over time, generations after generations after generations, now here we are, and I have even no idea where it even started from, right? It happened. And that's what I mean out of time, because if somebody's doing something in time, it is always in the greatest benefit, because you're literally tapped into the infinite source of energy, and you always make decisions that are good for you and for others around you, because it's this greater harmony that is in. But when we say start believing in some fear so much that the fear becomes like we start identifying through the fear or the lack or the sacrifice or whatever it is, it starts pulling us more and more and more off in a way. And then over the generations built up in DNA, it's a mess. Like it's all, the DNA is all over the place, in like, it's not precise in time. It's not living in that same resourceful space where the nature lives, but the DNA is resonating all this stuff that is just like spread in all kinds of spaces, right? And this is where even like any negative emotion or any negative thing that we label with a mind as a negative actually has a pure form of it. It has like its original design, which is beneficial. So say anger is really beneficial actually when it's pure, in its pure form. But over the time, anger has become so distorted that it literally creates wars and abuse and power play and all this crazy stuff, because it's gotten so far away in people's perception from what its pure power is, in a way. In pure
How would
power,
you define anger's pure power?
yeah, so it's you can think of it as this really powerful force, like say an energy of fire, for example. It has this like really powerful force, or volcano that is erupting. So it's similar to that, and it's a lot more powerful than, for example, gratitude is. And if somebody, I'll just give an example. Somebody is living in, I'm just going to take toxic relationship, and they just keep being grateful, like, oh, I'm grateful for everything that I have, and I just keep being grateful, and like somebody's really abusing me, but I'm still grateful. You're gonna keep in the same ditch. You're gonna keep the same pattern for a long time. But pure anger in its form, it can help you to realize, like, oh,
to release
I have boundaries.
Right?
Yeah, I have sovereignty, I have freedom, and I choose not to be abused.
Yes.
That way, the pure form of anger can help you to like get up like many levels. Yeah,
I love that you mentioned that, because I do, I take what I need and I leave the rest for a lot of things. And I love the law of attraction teachings, and you and I have had this conversation about, okay, well, if I just focus on the positive, I'll attract better. But this frequency work teaches that it really, like, if you think of yourself as a radio station, right? You're tuned into a channel. No matter how much you want to be on a different channel, you're still going to tune in to your channel, right? And you're going to attract that comes through your channel until you shift that actual station. And then you'll be able to attract differently. And so I know you and I have talked about, the differences between like frequency work, and there are some amazing things about the law of attraction for sure. But I don't know if you want to kind of elaborate on that a little bit about how, because what you just said is, if you're in a toxic relationship, and if I focus on the positive aspects of it and the gratitude, it might get better, but really you're going to just be stuck in a toxic relationship, right?
Yeah. I mean, some cases that could work, but again, when we start looking into pretty much, well, having worked with like hundreds and hundreds of people, this is my observation. There's so
I was going to ask you to share how many clients you've worked with as well. I'm like, see, we're approaching almost an hour. Like, you and I could talk forever, and I just want to get so much out there. But yes, share with us.
Yeah. So I've noticed in this work that many people carry so many layers that it literally, when you take one layer off, oh, well, there's more, right?
Oh, yeah.
And this is where it gets so much that we see this in a spiritual community a lot, where we mentally understand, or I know better. Like, I know that I'm an infinite being, but if it's not fully embodied, if it's not resonating in every single cell of your body, yeah, exactly. If you're not actually like going to the root and really clearing it out and empowering it from the inside, it's still going to keep running on the background. It's just going to take a different form that is even more difficult to see. It's going to cloak itself as a good spiritual practice, and it's going to take all kinds of different forms, but it would still be abusive, and it would still find its way to abuse us. And so that's where it is like the difference between mentally understanding something and superficially clearing certain filters versus going like really, really deep into deepest layers on a frequency level that what even creates your body, and then doing the work on that level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just to clarify, was my radio station channel analogy, did that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. I'm like trying to break it down in a way that, because you are such an advanced being, I was trying to break it down in a way that I can understand, so then maybe other people can understand it as well. But I think this work is so profound. I've definitely noticed shifts within myself, and I'm going to continue to work with you as well. It's something that I felt and I believe in, and that's why I invited you for this Truthful Tuesday. If you could share with us an example, of course, anonymously, of maybe a client experience that you had where, or even your own experience with frequency work, where you were before you did the work and where you are now. I know you're calling in from beautiful Hawaii. So like, tell us, give us an example of that.
Yeah, so I can give a direct experience from, there's so many that I could share, and also from clients. So there's so many empowering examples, but I'll just share mine first here is that, for example, and I worked on my path for like pretty much from the beginning, yes. And that was just my directing, like, I'm just gonna do what I love. I'm not gonna go into that hamster wheel of working for something that I didn't really fully believe in and all that. But what happened there is that I was following my inner guidance, but I was still living in like financial lack in a way that I just had barely enough. It came in, but it went out. And it's like, there's this saying, like, it comes in and goes right into the mouth in a way. So that's how it felt, that flow of financial income. And I always felt within me that something was still missing. Like there was this like yearning or hunger for something else, like something was off. I felt like something is still missing from this. Whatever I did, it didn't matter. Something was still missing. And that was because I was running a lack frequency in my system. And lack frequency literally feels like if I were to become a millionaire and a billionaire even, and if I run a lack frequency, it would still keep showing up in many different ways. So I would feel lonely, or I wouldn't have any like family, or people would start fighting over my money, or like I would feel like something is still missing. And the lack of emotional, mental, whatever kind of lack it would still be manifesting in life. And again, and that's again the good radio channel example. So if you are listening to lack radio, it doesn't matter what you do, how successful you seemingly are, it's gonna keep running in the system, right? It's gonna keep creating all kinds of things in your body as well, in your relationship. So I understood what the true abundance is mentally for a long time. And I was exposed to this, what I call the prosperity frequencies, through my mentor and other direct experiences, meditation. But it remained as a mental information. And there was one frequency session where I felt the prosperity frequency fully opening in my system. It landed for me. I uncovered it inside of me. And from that moment on, I got off the meditation and I went to my husband and I said, like, okay, the prosperity just came online for me. And ever since and that's prosperity I speak about. Money is just a tiny little aspect of it.
Right.
This is this complete inner fulfillment of knowing who I am and knowing where I am. And then everything around me is going to start reflecting it back to me, right? And so from that moment on, the lack literally didn't exist in my reality at all. I didn't exist in the lack reality. So what happened in that radio channel example, I shift the complete radio channel, and now everything that I do is reflecting back to me that abundance, including the financial flow, but it's coming from a sustainable place where it also benefits others. It's not coming from the space of like, I need to work really hard.
Like that survival space. It's coming from like a full embodied, safe, secure space.
Exactly.
That's so amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
And now you're in Hawaii.
Yeah, exactly. We're in Hawaii. It's another manifestation of it. But like everybody has this power to do this. And this is my greatest passion and desire, is to witness people. This is my greatest will, to witness people to step into their power. And I see this, like I've had clients who've had some kind of, say, neck issues that have been there for like generations, for, you know, like their father had the same thing, for example, or they've like worked with it for years and no doctor know how to deal with it. And once they go in and they release it for themselves on a frequency level, it's literally gone the next day. So this kind of physical shifts can happen. And for sometimes it's not so, most of the times it's not like that, like it just happens like in one day. It requires some persistency and multiple times of confirming it in your life, like I choose this higher frequency solution, but it will, for sure, I guarantee that it will create a shift when you just keep showing up for it, because we all have a different relationship to time. So some people are really quick and others need like a year. I personally detoxed around like 1.5 years pretty heavily, stuff from my reality and my identity, until I felt like, okay, I am here fully. There are clients who has, well, the money piece has been clearly showing for people, but also new opportunities and like more aligned work that really fulfills you. Different in relationships, like I've had so many clients who work with inviting in their true beloved, and here they are sharing a beautiful relationship with a beloved that is
I was
actually.
going to ask you that. How does the work translate to finding your beloved? Or I guess you would have to embody the frequency of the beloved to attract your beloved, right? Like you have to tune into that channel, or how does that, what do you think?
Yeah, well, that would be a whole different topic again.
I know.
I do programs around this too, just to preparing that. But how it works is that as you become, because people look for love, they look for connection and validation, and most people looking for a beloved out there and searching for it, it's coming unconsciously from a space of lack, of like there's something inside of me that is lacking and missing. Okay, and then that kind of attracting would only attract to you a person that is then perpetuating that lack on the inside, even though it seems like on the surface, and there might be really beautiful moments and all the things, but in the end it wouldn't actually be fulfilling, right? And so when you come home to that inner fulfillment and you realize the true aspect of love, like what self-love actually means, it doesn't just mean that you're just giving yourself a bath, bubble bath,
no.
and take a massage. Like that's just like
it's
one
like
little
boundaries and healthy choices. It's all of that, all the Epsom salt bath and massage and this and that. That's all external. I feel like self-love is totally an inner job. It's an inside job.
Exactly.
I'm walking that path right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Once you really realize that there's nothing missing, there's nothing lacking, you are the greatest beloved that you can ever have, you naturally will attract that person to you. You don't have to look for it from anywhere. It's just gonna happen.
Absolutely. I don't do the dating apps. I don't do any of that. I'm trying to embody my purest essence. And so thank you for sharing that too with the viewers, listeners, because that is a hot question, like how can I attract my soulmate or my twin flame or whatever people want to call it, you know what I mean? And it just starts with embodying that frequency, like you being that, and then not even worrying about it. I attract what's meant for me. I don't chase, I attract. So it's such a beautiful perspective. So I guess we're coming up on the hour. I can't believe it. It feels like it flew by. But is there anything else that you want to share? Of course, at the end, I want you to share, your contact information. I'm going to post it as well. But anything else that you want to share with the collective right now?
Yeah. So I really wanted to say, just to wrap this up, that in the heart of this frequency work, it's you who's doing the work. It's nobody else. There's nobody there that can heal you. There's no teacher out there who can do the work for you. And if they claim that, they are not actually coming from that true empowerment. So just knowing that because you're a human, you have all these abilities, because there's so many, say, clients who come to me, well, I don't know how to generate that frequency, or I don't know what to do. I don't have the clarity, but you wouldn't even be a human if you didn't know. And that's just about remembering that and coming home to that space. And again, like I say, the frequency work that we do during these monthly programs that I share, group programs, as well as individual sessions, we create conditions, or we create a frequency environment for you to then start attracting the right, say, insights, or the right medicines, or the people and whatever you need. So it's a different from, say, any practice that says like, here, take this practice and this will solve all your problems. But here we do in a way that you shift first. Okay, you shift your inner environment first, and then that inner environment and landscape is bringing in all the fruits and the abundance around you. So whatever it is that you need. And it's such a beautiful thing to witness when people go through their deepest, darkest burdens and liberate from it. So these group programs, so I do every month different topics. So they just come to me, like they come to me in meditation, like, okay, this month we work with this, like relationships, or this month we work with service and dharma and life work, or this month we work with prosperity, or this month we work with physical body health. And I listen to people also what they like are asking like we'll bring it in, like whatever people need. So they are group programs, which is a powerful way to work with frequency, that we come together. They are relatively small groups. We come together, and then it creates this collective field, or the mastermind, that then helps all of us to go into a higher frequency. So it's not kind of a mastermind where you pick up other people's burdens. It just doesn't work that way at all. It works in a way that it's like a mirror of like reflecting our best possible versions to each other in a way. So that way we're able to go into a lot deeper refinement in the body as well. So that's like one option. And I also, how my abilities work, I work individually with people while we're in the group phase as well. And I speak about subgroups because I see, say, if somebody's running a luck pattern, there's probably a few other people who are also doing the same. So it brings us together to do this work together. And then there's also individual sessions that I offer, 45-minute ones or 20-minute ones, which are going deeper into your specific personal things, which I usually recommend, say, if you have a specific relationship thing going on, we can go and help to clear out any connections, toxic connections with a certain person, or really going deep into, honestly, it's quite unlimited. Whatever is going on with your life, we can work with that. So those are the options. We are going to start, my husband also does frequency work. He's actually, I'm just like pointing there.
I know, he's back there. We know he's around.
He introduced me to the frequency work in the first place, and our abilities work slightly differently. He has this incredible ability to activate things in the system, and so we are putting together this 1-year program that is starting in April. It seems like we're putting out more information now in 2022. So and we're gonna start doing that every year, going deeper into like more like advanced and the mechanics of this. And we want everybody to learn how to take this power back to themselves. And again, this is not a specific technique. This is simply empowering the things that you already do and helping to look it from a deeper perspective, so that you're not dependent on anything, any technique or anything outside of you, but you take the power back to your home.
I love that. That is so exciting, and I can't wait to hear more about that. So what's the best way for people to reach you? Would that be through your website?
Yeah, I think the website, it has all the information there, emails and stuff. So it's eternal-present.com. And all the programs, everything is there, and more podcasts and free. Also, I offer free frequency meditations and stuff. So it's all there.
The meditations are amazing. I highly recommend them. Well, thank you so much for being my second guest on this new adventure that I am embarking on. It's been such a beautiful conversation. I feel like you and I could talk forever on different topics. So thank you so much. Thank you to the viewers and the listeners for tuning in. This is The Conduit with Tattva Tuesdays with Sanni Pääkkönen. I hope that you enjoyed this. Please reach out to either her or myself. Have a beautiful rest of your week. Thanks.
Thank you so much.